What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Mike Acuña Podcast. And today, as promised, I want to talk about something that's more important than your core talent or competencies. Because these days, it seems that client management is being truly undervalued. Whether you go to a Jollibee, the mall, high-end shops, or even the karinderya, see, you expect to be treated a certain way, right? A way that is pleasant, respectful, accommodating, and overall, it leaves you feeling good, right? When you walk away from these experiences, you actually feel like you want to come back to it, diba? And with any other business, it's the same principle. See, one-off customers or customers who don't come back, or they're not the ones that you want to have. Therefore, what kind of establishment or business, I'm talking about you, what kind of business do you want to have, or what kind of business do you have to be to retain these customers, especially if you are a freelance artist? Okay, so join me today as we talk about servicing customers or client engagement the way you ought to on the 19th episode of the Mike Acuña Podcast. Let's say you are a debutante who's about to celebrate her birthday in a couple of months. Let's say that you are a couple who are scheduled to be married in a couple of months. Now, preparation for events as memorable as the ones that I just mentioned can get, tedious, repetitive, challenging, even exhaustive, especially if you're dealing with several customers or several suppliers is what I mean. And let's not get started on talking about attitudes that come into play when client and supplier do not necessarily see eye to eye. Now, client engagement is something that can make or break a deal. Clients reaching out to you is a small win, but anyone would agree that the real challenge is closing the deal. And if you want to go beyond that, actually being friends with your clients. Imagine that, right? Not to have them as people who refer you, but as actual friends who will actually root for you all the way. Daming actually na. Pero that's got a lot better to have in life, isn't it? So, of course, part of it is going to produce money for you. But if you stop there, that mentality will reflect on how you execute your business. They will feel it. People will catch up to it, and they will have the idea that you're not being genuine, and they will stop, quote unquote, buying your product. And as a freelance artist, you don't ever want that. Even if you're not a freelance artist, I don't think that will ever be good for the business, if you catch my drift. So what I'd like to do on this episode is walk everyone through an 8-step system that has helped me last this long in this country for, I think I'm going on my 12th year and running. One of the most important things I learned is if you rely solely on your talent to keep you in the industry, and this applies to any job in the world, if you rely on that alone, you are sorely mistaken. There's so much more to it than we often realize. Online popularity is never going to be enough if your intention is to last long in any field. Being likable really helps, but it's the quality of service which is important, especially to your clients, right? So let's get right to it. Again, this is an 8-step system. I'd like to introduce them to you. The first one is the inquiry and response system. The second is walking your clients through the process, and then closing the deal comes right after that. The fourth would be letting their ideas in. Fifth would be knowing who your teammates are. Number 6 is keeping your promises. Number 7 is executing well. And the 8th is working on your follow-through on after sales. Let's get to it. All right, we're on to item number 1. Let's talk about inquiry and response system. See, when I started out, everything felt like a game for me. A game which I yet have to realize the importance of. And of course, I felt good about myself, and I relied on nothing but my talent to get behind a microphone and speak to both big and small audiences. Now, what I didn't think about was, what do I do when word spreads that, hey, this guy's good? Or once I get referrals in my inbox and they start asking about my availability on this day and my service inclusions and rates and all that. Now listen, when you immerse yourself in an industry long enough, you know what questions people will ask, and you have to know how to address these inquiries properly and confidently. I didn't have that back then, but I figured it out as I went along. So let's talk about the inquiry and response system. Back in the day, I was using a Nokia phone. And I think one of its most underrated functions is to save drafts of messages that you can send people. Also, there is an auto reply message that you can access for answers to common inquiries. Now, I'm sure it's safe to say that every phone now has that function. You have to be able to maximize this. Now, there are a couple of ways to go about this, depending on which medium the client uses. Before we continue, I need for you to be aware that there is a common denominator between my responses, regardless of the medium the client uses. Here's what I do. I always thank them for reaching out to me. That's one of the first things I say. Okay, so I think we are ready to talk about the different mediums and how to reply. The first one would be SMS or online chat messages as well. This applies to both. This often catches us in a cold way, meaning the sender of the message will see, once you have seen the message, that they sent you, right? So time is always of the essence here, because you don't want to leave them on seen for too long. It just, sends the wrong message. I would advise to reply as soon as you can in the quickest way possible. Let's talk about prepared responses. Some would call these canned responses, CANNED. So let's talk about those responses for common inquiries in a bit. But first, I would like for you to pause this podcast and access your phone's notes and type in a new note saying this. You ready? Okay, here's what you want to type down. Hello, thank you so much for reaching out. Please give me a moment and I'll be right with you. All right, put me on pause and type that in. I'll wait. All right, welcome back. Congratulations, you have made your first prepared response. What does it do, right? What that does is it buys you time to look at the inquiry real hard, then compose a proper response and even ask the necessary questions or clarifications if you need to. I'd say that's the formula for first interactions with a potential client. You have to check the inquiry, address the inquiry, and then ask questions and or clarify. Ask questions like, when is the event going to be? Where is it going to be? What kind of event, etc. All right. Now, the second thing I want to talk about is emails, right? Actually, this applies to SMS and online chat as well. If, say, you are the type of host who has been blessed with a great voice, let's talk about you. If you have a nice speaking voice, what would be a nice response is for you to send back a voicemail, right? Tell them, let's say her name is Clarice. You want to say, hi, Clarice. Thank you so much for reaching out. I wanted to thank you personally. That's why I'm sending this voice note. Maybe you can supply me with the following information. Where is the event going to be? When is it going to be held? And things like that, if you want to ask them that. So that adds a really personalized touch to it. And I've found that people respond very, very nicely after you do that. So, again, you might want to check that out, see if it works for you. And let me know what you guys come back with. Okay. All right. So I want to talk about this next. So everyone's on their computers and their phones nowadays. So right after you've answered all of the primary inquiries, we're going back to that now, right? So after you've addressed all of that, there will they will almost right after, and this happens most of the time, they will look for your body of work online. Now, if you are someone who is starting out and one who would consider themselves fresh in the business, what you want to do is make a Facebook business page and Instagram business page. You can look up how to make both online. Just Google them. Now, of course, you're going to have done events first, so you can post anything. So if you haven't hosted a single event, just make both pages, leave them blank for now, and continue listening to this podcast. All right, so customers come first, then the events will follow. All right, I want to address something that's really important. A lot of people have been asking me since the beginning of time, since the beginning of my career. This is the burning question of the millennium. They asked me, Mike, how do we come up with a price? How do I price myself? What is my talent fee? All right, first things first, you can't please everyone. All right. What you want to do is determine which market you appeal to and which market you want to penetrate. All right. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that looks like. I can't answer that for anyone, but you can answer it for yourself. All right. So let's breathe that in first, and then when you're ready, are you ready? Okay, let's keep talking. All right. So let's talk about it. Now, from you, the listener, I will need your cooperation on this, as we will be talking about figures, which may be subjective to each individual. So let's start with this. If you've only been hosting for, let's say, 6 months, all right, my question is this: how much would you be willing to pay for a host who is of your caliber? Again, I can't put a number on that, but go ahead, pick a number in your brain and hold it there. And also, it might help if, just for the sake of equating it, let's say that 1 month of your hosting experience so far is equals to 1,000 pesos, but you can price it the way you want. All right, I'll allow you a moment. All right, you got that number? Okay. Next thing, let's go to the next item. A lot of hosts would say that there are a lot of things that they have to include in their talent fee. For example, clothing, transportation, accessories, holiday premium, etc. Now, if you're in your car and you're on the road right now, we can get to this later. Don't do anything yet. But if you are in a place where you have access to a pen and paper, I would implore you to write all of these down and then decide on a number that you would allot for the following, right? Clothing, transportation, accessories, holiday premium, and a couple of other things that you would personally deem as important. What are those like? These may be any workshops that you have attended, any supplementary courses in language, or anything of the like, anything that makes you proficient and efficient in any language or both languages, like, for example, Tagalog and or English. All right, so pause this podcast again and then add those numbers up. I will wait. Okay, I think we should be good. All right. Okay, so once again, welcome back. Now, have you crunched those numbers? How are those numbers looking? Huh? What does it amount to? Now, are you happy with those numbers? Okay. All right. So yeah, let's put a pin on that for now. Let's go to the next thing that you're going to have to add or figure out, and this is really important. So listen up. Which of those things that you just listed down are the least important to you? Right? I'm talking about something that you can actually do without having a budget for it. All right. So identify that, and once you have identified it, strike it out and add everything again. Okay. Now, you might think I'm punishing you for no apparent reason. I am not. And you might not be as happy as you were 1 minute ago when we summed up those numbers the first time. But let me ask you this. Which numbers would be more appealing to a potential client? Is it the first one or the second one? Right? The one that we did for your clothing, transportation, accessories, and all that. And when I asked you to strike out one item or even two items, right? Of course, the second one is going to be lower, but that would be more appealing to a potential client. See, I'm not trying to make you poor. This method is not to make you poor. This method is designed to make you marketable, thus ensuring continuity of work. Now, I understand while numbers are important for the client and of course for you, what is more important to you? I'm talking about regular business and referability. Sorry, pumiyok ako. Pero regular business and referability. That is really important. Okay, think about that, right? So you might not have stellar numbers when you're charging. Most cases that would actually turn people off. But when you're striking a sweet spot, price-wise, that's why they keep coming back, right? Okay, so think about that for a second. Mull that over. Now, we are halfway through the process of answering the question, what is your talent fee? All right, so we'll need this next half for us to get to that conclusion. The next question would be, what other talents can you incorporate into your hosting? Now, this can prove tricky for some stand-up comedians because doing stand-up actually is your style of hosting. But let's talk about other talents that one may have. I know some hosts who sing just like myself. Some of them dance. Some do both. Some DJ for after parties just like me. And some play instruments that are rarely seen in most events. So let's consider all that and everything in between. Now stop for a second and think. If you were a singer or a dancer, if you were to consider the regular rate for performing for an event, how much would that be? All right, nightly entertainment such as singers at restaurants or bars get paid anything from 1,500 to 2,000 pesos. I've never played in bars as a DJ, but if you are a DJ who wants to get into hosting, you probably know how much you charge for a performance. Not so sure about dancers, just like my friend Miss Jill Ngo, who is a phenomenal belly dancer, and she's really awesome at it. I don't know how much she charges, but if you dance, go ahead and put a number on it. And add that to what you currently have on top of your hosting experience and your miscellaneous fees. Now, this is an added value for your hosting, which you can offer, or a separate service that the clients can avail of altogether. All right, now go ahead and add all of that and then underline it. Okay, now we have one more thing to add. Last but definitely not the least on our list is adding out-of-town fees. How much would you charge for events in Metro Manila? I'm guessing that would be the total sum of what we have so far. But what if the event was in Tagaytay or Laguna or Batangas or Rizal? You know, an honest estimate of this would be to go on your Grab app and check out the rates on how to go to these places. If you want to be perfectly modest about it, research the bus fares and how to get to the venue coming from the bus terminal. You can even seek help from the client if they are locals of that place. If you're driving to these places, how many kilometers do we have to travel, and then put that against your car's gas consumption. Pretty easy if you're driving. Now, if you add all of these numbers up, you might be surprised. Now, this is just a wild guess, but if I asked you how much would you price your services without taking all of these items into consideration, you would come up with a significantly lower number. And the thing about that is, if the client asks you to justify it, chances are there's going to be a struggle doing that. All right, so I hope that this helps. And remember, being a host is not about tenure. It's about the individual's ability to adapt and cater to the changing needs of the clients. We're still here at the Mike Acuña Podcast. We just got done talking about step 1, which is the inquiry and response system. And now it's time to talk about number 2. Item number 2, you have to walk the client through the process. Walk them through the process. Now that you've answered their questions out the gate, it's time to walk them through the process of acquiring your services. While we do this, it's important to be reminded that we have not yet closed the deal. Most clients will not be familiar on how to proceed with a deal like this because most likely this will only be the first time they're getting married, and I'm damn sure this is the last time they're turning 18 for them who are celebrating their debuts. Now, some clients will have no idea of doing events since they are assigned POCs by their bosses, for example, for corporate events. So it's important for you to be gentle and accommodating, and also for you to be clear about the things that you want to educate them on, because that's also your job. After the inquiry and the follow-up questions, most of them would ask what the next steps are. Now, assuming that all goes well and the client gives the go signal, we will now proceed to locking the date of the event. Now, some hosts whip up a contract, some hosts don't. Some of them secure a down payment from the client, some of them don't. I realize everyone has a different style on going about doing this, but I think it would be best for you to look after both yourself and your client so both parties are protected. While some events do get canceled, and believe me, I've had my fair share of those, I am fortunate to be at this point in my career interacting with clients who are aware of how freelance hosts proceed with these deals. Now, whether you prepare a contract or not, whether you secure a down payment or not, nothing will ever change the fact that the best way to keep your client warm is to secure the soonest possible date that you can meet up. All right? It is really important for you to be an active user of your calendar, because the last thing you want to do is double book. This is when, for those of you who are not familiar with the term, this is when you have two overlapping events who have paid you in advance, and they're actually looking forward to having you there because you're paid. Now, only a few hosts have ever survived this mishap, but as a person, if you put yourself in the client's shoes when that damage is done, there's really no way to truly recover from that. So once you have a set meeting date, put that in your calendar right away, whether it be a meeting or the date of the event itself. Assure them that you will always be accessible to them should they have any questions or concerns, and even give them your mobile number if need be. You have to be prompt, concise, and nice with your response each time, and before you know it, the time to meet has come. I know that right at this point in the transaction, you are itching to share with them all of your ideas and your expertise in the business, but it would be best to hold that in for now, because in my experience, most of the questions they have, they will save for when they meet you face to face. So best be prepared for that. Close the deal. Yep, close the deal. By the way, closing the deal does not mean securing a down payment. Nope. By closing the deal, it means you're getting your client's buy-in. It means total faith in you and your expertise. So let's go back to your meeting day, right? You're already there, ready with your coffee in hand and your laptop fired up. You're just waiting for them to come through those doors. And once they do, you introduce yourself. You modestly ask them if they want anything from the bar. You sit down and do a bit of small talk, and then really get into the questions that matter. What do they do? Right? Where do they live? How did they meet? How long have they been together? How did he propose? Where did he propose? How did the bride-to-be feel during the proposal? After you ask questions like that, then you zoom in on the event. Where is it going to be held? How many people are we expecting to attend? What is the theme of their reception? How would they expect a host to represent them? What would a bad host look like to them? What do they consider funny? Things like that. See, I'm a guy who is big on asking questions than assuming that what I know will always work just because I have experience. No. Everyone perceives experience a different way, so what is ideal for one couple may not be ideal for another. Things you have to consider are family background, personal taste, determining whether a couple is game or a bit traditional, and things like that. Having questions like these as the roots of your conversation around their special day will get you to a place wherein both parties are comfortable and ideas flow easier. So let's talk about ideas. You have to let their ideas in. This is step number 4, right? Let their ideas in. I always say that while I'm backed by experience, the hosting industry is always 10 steps ahead of me. I can never, ever know everything. Now, while I do events full time, the ones who are eager to know what the trend is when it comes to weddings and debuts are the couples and the celebrators. They are the true hosts on their special day. You are just there to represent them. So naturally, they will do their research rigorously, probably more than a host would most of the time. So while you are the event professional, there is also their lead for you to take. Remember, this is a two-way street. One always has something to learn from the other. Ask them, how do they imagine their special day going? What are some of the things they wish a host can do, which may be outside his or her scope of work? Some of them may even go against the wedding reception program that you are proposing, and I found that when I take a step back and ask why they are doing it, there's usually good reason behind it. Most of it would be because of tradition, like how some couples still do or like to do the releasing of the pigeons, while some couples may want to have the bride and father dance and the groom and mother dance before their first dance as husband and wife. Some couples still opt for the prosperity dance and things like these. If you are fairly new to these concepts, the best way it will serve you is to pay attention. Now, if you have experienced things like these before, ceremonies like these before, make sure that you paint them a clear picture of what they want and how it usually pans out, so they are perfectly aware of how the program flows, should they go this direction or that direction. This is where your expertise comes in. When you have agreed on the program, set a time and date when you will be available or able to deliver it, and assure them that you will send them a copy via email. Also, very important, please make sure to incorporate the names of their parents, principal sponsors, entourage members, candle sponsors, veil sponsors, cord sponsors, the best man, maid or matron of honor, and anyone else who is performing and or doing anything special on the program. Your co-suppliers will thank you for this. All right. So Step number 5 is this. Step number 4 is let their ideas in. Now, step number 5 is know your teammates. All right, we'll keep this short because this is common knowledge. No man is an island. Okay, so it is important for you to know the people that you're working with. So please ask your clients who your co-suppliers are going to be. Food and beverage, lights and sounds, coordination team, the photo booth or photo man, the caricaturist, etc. Yes, they have caricaturists now. They're called speed caricaturists. They draw you real quick. Anyway, so know if your couple have their contact details handy and list them down. After your meeting, what you want to do is send an email to all the suppliers, also looping in your couple, and introduce yourself as a host. All right, state that you are always within reach should they have any concerns or questions, and this establishes you in that circle as someone pleasant and moreover, a credible supplier. You know, that's how you want to come across, right? Number 6, this is item number 6. If you are a credible supplier. We were just talking about that like 10 seconds ago. Now, item number 6 is keeping your promises, okay? When you see that you are available, when you say that you are available for their messages, please reply to them promptly, especially when the date of the event is fast approaching. You're going to have to be quick with your responses because people in the events industry, they hack and slash, man. They move with purpose. They don't like wasting time. So if they tap you for anything, it means that they needed it yesterday. Yes, they needed it yesterday and they need it that quick, man. All right. So thank goodness we are all online. All right. So this is step number 7. Executing well or execute well. Now, on the day of the event, please get there early. This will set the tone of your performance for the rest of the event. You know, feel good about yourself. Conduct yourself well. Pay close attention to anything that your coordinators, your co-suppliers, or guests have to say. Most of these would be updates regarding adjustments in the program. And at this point, it's really important for you to realize that professionalism means following through to anything and everything that was talked about between you, your clients, and co-suppliers. But also, in the same breath, this will mean that you are going to have to be professional enough to be flexible with the changes. You don't just take them and say, no, I made this program, this should happen like this. No, it's not. It shouldn't be like that. Believe me, there are going to be changes on the day itself, whether they be big or small. So be fluid, be calm, and most of all, if you can't be funny, at least be fun. Okay? All right. So that was steps 1 through 7, right? The first one is the inquiry and response system. We talked about that. Also, number 2 is walk them through the process. Number 3 is close the deal. Number 4 is let their ideas in. Number 5 is know your teammates. Number 6 is keep your promises. And number 7 is execute well. We have come to the last step in the process, which is the follow through. Yes, it sounds like it's describing like a basket, how you shoot a basketball, right? Follow through. You got to have a follow through. Let's say this is the part where the event is done. You have congratulated the celebrator or your couple and wished them well on their 18th birthday or their marriage. You have shaken the hands of your co-suppliers and you thank them for being such great people to work with. You go home, a few days or a few weeks pass, right? I think another really special time during this whole experience is when you reach back out to them after the event. Seeing your name in their inbox would make them wonder, what could this be about? What is this guy reaching out to me for? But really, you just want to be able to congratulate them again and thank them for having gotten the chance to represent them on their special day. You have to cite some things that made it stick out for you. Maybe talk about how great the energy was in that room and how in the few times that you've met this couple, that's the only time you've seen them smile that much and things like that. Afterwards, maybe even go as far as to ask for genuine feedback and not just praise. Let them know that this is what you actually want and you actually have to want it, right? Because you're not trying to be famous. You're trying to stay here for as long as you can doing what you like or love to do. It doesn't have to be their response, doesn't have to be anything lengthy. Just, bullet points on what they appreciate about you and the things you can work on at the same time. So watch for their reply and thank them. Also it's important for them to realize that they never ever have to be a stranger. Let them know that you're willing to arrange a night or an afternoon to meet with them over coffee or even some drinks. I've been fortunate enough to actually enjoy that kind of relationship with my past clients, and it's really great knowing them as the people that they are. At the end of the day, it's human communication and engagement that matters more than entertainment and impressing people by how you perform. That is going to get you someplace, but not someplace far, when you're just all about entertaining and impressing people. Communication and engagement is something that can be done without a stage and a microphone. That's what I love about it. And in my honest opinion, friendship that happens after a very transactional natured phase is one to keep. I think we'd all take people any day over money. That has been it, ladies and gentlemen. The 19th episode of the Mike Acuña Podcast. Quick shout out going out to Joyce Uy, to Eric Uy, to Heinz Kawile, and to Gay Kawile, also to Mark and Gianna. Two couples out of those three couples that I just mentioned swung by my gig at Nanka Restaurant out at Iroses and Mother Ignacia Avenue just last night. And it was such a fun night. I'm grateful that you guys were there. Maraming salamat. And let's go do that again. Please tell your friends about my existence. Anyone from someone who's thinking about being a host on the side, and anyone who's thinking of doing this full time, and some seasoned hosts who might need another host's help. I'd be more than happy to help them out, whatever it is that they need, whether it be some tips, advice, supplementary materials when it comes to hosting. Please let them know. They can send me a message on facebook.com/whotheheckismike, and also on Instagram it's _Mike Acuña. Till next time, thank you so much again for listening. This has been Mike Acuña, and I'm excited about the 20th episode of the Mike Acuña Podcast. Please stand by for that. Thank you.